Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than the legend himself, the new pilot, apparently, who may or may not have landed a plane, Karl Bryan.
Shoots, how are you, Road Dog? What's going on? We might need to fill in a blank there because I'm still having a blank. But anyways.
That's so the whole thing is, Karl. Yes, he helped fly a plane, but when you have the co-pilot there who's literally taking the controls, not the wheel, the controls. So Karl's not sure just how much he may or may not have been involved, and I may have just shattered his entire dream of how it all went down. So I apologize for just ruining your Monday like that. Just right out of the gates, boom, there goes the week. Karl's in a pit for the rest of the week.
Okay, hey, I just here it is, folks. We're doing the pre-show just prior to this, and I was talking about, so you're getting a coaching company going, and one of the, you're thinking about lead gen, and quite frankly, if you're the average coach, it kind of takes over and it becomes a bit obsessive for you. Like it's leads. How do I generate leads? How do I get these leads? How do I get in front of business owners? And the reality is you just don't need that many leads, right? So you get 10 clients and you're getting busy. You get 20 and you're hovering towards maxed out, right? So you just don't need to. And one of our guys earlier, Mark, and a high five to Mark, he had computer trouble. He took his laptop in and he turned the guy into a client, right? And I'm like, high five. And then he didn't stop there. He's already got referrals flowing through, and Road Dog and I are just high fiving him, right? So part of that, I was just saying that as you're getting your coaching company going, you're the airplane stuck. You're the airplane at a standstill, right? So once you get up to 10,000 feet, I could drive it. Road Dog could drive it. My 9-year-old, newly 9, by the way, just had her birthday. Very exciting. But anyway, so she could grab the steering wheel and fly it. And of course, Road Dog couldn't help himself. And he's like, you realize a plane doesn't have a steering wheel. And then I actually have flown a plane. And then Road Dog's grilling me on exactly how much of the flying I did or did not do. And it's kind of weird. And even as I sit here, I can't remember exactly how much I did. I'm pretty sure that I took off and I landed, but I had some assistance without question of the guy sitting beside me. But I definitely flew a plane. And when I landed, I was ready. My first phone call as I landed, I was like, I'm learning to fly a plane. I'm going all in. And looking at airplanes, by the way, the whole 9 yards, but it was just, so whatever. So that was it. But your coaching business, folks, may feel, if it's feeling like, lead gen and you're feeling like you're getting stuck to get going, it's because you're an airplane, on the ground. And, once you get it to 10,000 feet, it's going to be really easy. You got 10 clients, you lose 2, you just ask for a couple of referrals, you do an event, you reach out to an accountant that you spoke to 3 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, and you just end up filling the pipeline back up, right? But trying to get it going is that metaphorical airplane on the ground. So anyway, so there's part of the pre-show, folks, and high five.
Are you going to put I'm waiting for the cliche of, an airplane takes off against the wind. Are you going to do anything cheesy like that? Or?
Shoots. Well, you just did it, Shoots. Well done. There you go. Tough times make tough people, right? The strongest wood is grown in the trees from the harshest weather up north. So there you go. Well done. High five, Road Dog. I love it.
There you go, Shoots. There it is. And maybe I'm just trying to ruin on a subconscious level. Maybe I'm just slightly bitter with you because you actually forgot my birthday, which ladies and gentlemen, he has no excuse missing because it's on the same day as his daughter. Like, come on, shoots. Like, pretty lame.
I know. Incredibly late. I did send the belated through. Right? So
Well, and it's also
total.
the text interaction was actually a lot more hilarious than that because you're just like, hey brother, hope you're crushing it today. And I replied back with something like, the only thing getting crushed was my pride or something like that because you missed my birthday.
That's exactly how it went down. That is exactly how it went down. And I'm like, oh.
All right, listen, the pre-show. So, real quick. So I asked the question, and I think it's a good kind of point to bring it up on the podcast officially here. So, because I've been thinking a lot about, are there certain thresholds, like again, because again, I guess, well, that's a question in and of itself. What's the best sort of measure of growth? Because is it only revenue? But anyways, but are there certain sort of points in a business where like the next big leap happens? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because we were talking about staffing and everything else, and I shared a story of a guy that I met where it's just like, they signed $1 million contract, and he's like, oh my gosh, all I'm doing is managing people. I hate managing people. And then he sold his half of the business and quickly became gainfully employed again, doing what he loves to do. But are there certain, like, I guess, times or thresholds in a business where it's like, boom, massive sort of expansion and growth just sort of happens?
Yeah. And I think do you mean like inflection point, as in you need to go to like, there's an inflection point where you need to go to the next level, right? Like where what got you here won't get you there,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah, you know what? It's great, perfect. Because if you don't deal with it, you remain stuck.
yeah, absolutely. And then, totally get it. So here, 96% of business owners don't get the 7 figures. Okay, so that's not profit, that's gross revenue. So I dare say that the obvious, and again, I don't know that there's exact, there's no numbers we're going to be able to throw out to say, oh, at this point, this is what's going to happen. But at the million, I would dare say that things change a little bit, where you need to go from think like sales to marketing. We've said this on the podcast a lot, Road Dog, where if you get a $10 million above, you're basically an HR company, right? Like it's just hiring. Your greatest successes will come through other people. So you just become, you just got to get the right people in the right places. But I would say that I think what we were talking about was kind of like an inflection point, and it was like positioned as like a revenue target. And I'm going to say the frame, or the different way of looking at it, the way that I would see it and expect those inflection points to come, would be number of staff, right? Like, so what got you here won't get you there. And, you know what I mean? Like once you get to a certain amount of staff, you're going to have to recalibrate and start, managing teams. Like here's something that happens a lot. Introduce me to a construction company. Wow. That, has kind of ridden the roller coaster for a couple of decades. And here's what tends to happen is the guy gets started and he's really good and he does his own thing and he's got his one helper and he goes and things start to take off. And then he ends up with a team of 4. Okay. And like, that's a good team. He manages the team. And then he gets a second team of 4. Right. And he's like, okay, this is not going so bad. Then he ends up with a third team of 4. And then he ends up with a 4th team of 4. And then where he ends up? With one team. Right. So he goes from 1, 2, 3, 4 back to 1. And everybody listening knows what happened, right? Like where he went into the game of, he went into the game of management, decided that he sucked as a manager, forgot to hire. He didn't realize what he should be doing is what he's really good at. And that's probably not management. And therefore he didn't hire the manager. In some cases, wasn't humble enough to accept that somebody else should have been the manager and not him. And then therefore things went a little bit pear-shaped. A couple of, deals or a couple of houses or a couple of projects went oury, lost some money, said, I'm not doing that again, and ended back with this tight little team that he could control, back in his, what do you call it? You know what I mean? Like his happy spot, where he didn't have to do a lot of managing, and that's what tends to happen. So, and then again, here's what I would encourage that individual to be thinking about, or again, as a frame, you got let's go to a chiropractor. Okay. He's moving along and he gets started at 30, killing it at 35. At 40, he's really moving along. At 45, he decides that he wants to start golfing. And like, why the heck am I working so hard? He's paid off his house, right? And then at the age of 50, he's like, you know what? I'm going to sell this business. And he ends up selling a business that's operating 3 days a week and running at about 35% capacity, right? A significantly better frame, and kind of picture a bell curve as I'm doing this. Okay, so he gets going. What did I say? He's 30, he gets going, 35, 40, he's crushing it. He's got to find the 30-year-old version of himself at the age of 40 to come in and start driving business and driving revenue and going to the seminars and doing the back talks, etc. And then that guy becomes 35. But what he does is he gives them 5% of the company, gives them 10% of the company. It could be sweat equity. It could be a check. It could be whatever. At the end of the day, though, now he's got another business owner. If he doesn't do that, that guy leaves and becomes his competition down the road a lot of the time. And remember, there's 4 things that motivate people: rank, recognition, prizes, and then money. Money is fourth by design, not by accident. Rank number 1, you took him from a chiropractor to a business owner by giving him 2.55 or 10% of the company. And now you've got a second business owner, and he's going to be there. Instead of having, asking him if he could be in by 8, the guy's opened the door at 6:30, right? And he doesn't need a key, puts on a helmet, and he opens the door with his head because he's so amped up and he's going. And then, by the way, you bring in another 30 as that guy, moves along and time marches on. Your second in command becomes towards 40 and crushing it. Bring in another version of that and give that guy 10%. And as long as people seem to think that they need to own 100% of their company, that's absolutely not the case. Own 51% of it, and you make you call all the shots. You've got, not that you want to, you should be, if you've got business owners, I think you should absolutely be, speaking to them, and you know what I mean? What am I trying to say? Like, having meetings and that sort of stuff, and using their influence to decide on which direction you're going to go. But a way better model. So the frame, you're 30, you get going. 35, you're killing it. 40, you bring on a business partner that looks just like you, but much younger. And then they start moving along. And then by the time you hit 50 and want to sell, you've got 2 people and much more staff and many more clients going at 100 miles an hour. And now you sell the business. You got a business running at 250% capacity versus the 35% of you just going it alone. And that's how you retire and do really well. And then do you want to know who's going to write the check to buy the business from you? One of the 2 guys or both of the 2 guys that own 10% each, or whatever number. So now you've got, like, your best client and your best staff member are the first 2 people you look to when you want to sell a business, right? So Road Dog, that's, inflection points and whatnot. I don't know that it's necessarily, revenue, but I do think that having a model to get started with, and most importantly through that story, I don't know how good of a job I did there, but management is not for everybody. Some people are real natural managers, and then some people suck royally at it. And very important, that you're accepting of that, and they're accepting of that. The business owner is accepting of that, to bring in a manager to make sure that as you grow, all the key pieces are in place and things are getting organized, and balls aren't getting dropped. So that's my answer, bud. At the $10 million mark, you become an HR company.
It's interesting because you're almost grooming the future owners
Yes.
of the business, and you're also,
100%.
it's funny, small little hidden benefit there. You're also going to save yourself the 10% that you would have paid a business broker to handle that transaction for you to actually sell that business, right?
Boom.
So
And the guy's going to be successful. Sorry, Road Dog, but and the guy's going to be successful because he's been there for 15 years, right?
Well,
Again, and by the way, then you probably go. Sorry, buddy, go.
I was just going to say, the thing that got me is when you said you're taking him from a chiropractor to a business owner. That's a very interesting comment there, because I was going to ask you, at what point do you think somebody goes from, let's just call it a hobby, because that's essentially what it is. You're not, or I guess, I don't know, let's just, whatever it is, to an actual business owner. Like, when does that pivot happen?
Yeah. It happens in between their ears before it happens in reality. But I tell you what, when you sign the paperwork and start calling the guy a business owner, and literally, when you're talking to him, like as an owner, so you're talking to somebody. It's like, so as an owner of the company, should we do A? Should we do B? Or should we try maybe a hybrid of C? What do you think? You know what I mean? Like it kind of starts to happen organically, right? And the guy's like, first time he hears that from the guy he used to call boss, it starts to happen, man. Happens organically.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Love it. Hey, listen, every once in a while I do love just to kind of see it's a scary question. What's going on in that huge head of Karl Bryan's? It's the most frightening question anyone could ever ask, but I'm the man that's going to ask it. So I'm just going to pull a couple of the questions together here that I'm looking at. But what's what's give us a few of you guys, I guess, random thoughts or stories. Like what's going on in that coconut of yours?
What's going on? I don't even know how to answer that. Shoots. Well, okay. So this weekend, my daughter had her birthday party, which was a booming success. I'm going to tell you, she crushed it. So okay. Actually, no. Before I did, here it is. I'm at IGA grabbing some groceries. Walk out, pushing the trolley dealio, right, with all the groceries. Do. Somebody comes walking up to me and goes, "Hey, do you want to buy some lasagna?" Right? And I'm kind of like looking around and I got all this food. I'm like, the last thing in the world I need is lasagna. But anyways, I guess she assumes that, I'm in the parking lot at IGA. Maybe I'm hungry, but I'm like, hey, and with that initiative, if we have a rule at my house, if anybody knocks on the door, to wash windows, to do this, like it's just an automatic yes, because I want to reward that behavior, because back in the day, that's how I got her going. So I want to reward that. So I'm like, I don't need any lasagna, but yes, right. So and then she like points over her car, and I'm like, over there, I was expecting like a little stand or like something, right? Nothing. Anyways, I go walking over there to do. Very unimpressive setup going on. But at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, okay, cool. How big are they? They're pretty small. And I'm like, yeah, give me a few, give me this, to do. I looked in my wallet. I had $50. I said, look, just give me whatever you can give me for $50. Here you go. She gave me this. I said, okay, thanks. I said, so is it any good? And then she didn't didn't give her answer wasn't quite what you would, you'd want it to be. You'd want her to be jacked up and tell me, how it's all local ingredients and it's going to be amazing and blah, blah, blah. And that was okay. And then I said, okay, so do you have a card in case I want to order again? She goes, no, but there's this sticker on top, right? And I'm like looking at it and I can't even find the phone number, but I'm like, you don't have a card. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I'm like, whatever. I got into my car and she gave me a plastic fork. So I opened it up. I took a bite and wondering, I wonder if this stuff's any good, right? It was good. So then I drive up. So then I'm like, I just can't help myself, right? I got to go to her and I give her this and I'm like, look, just little FYI, I've done this kind of, I've helped businesses grow and I'm very passionate about it. Just want to give you a little bit of advice. Okay. And I'm like, not only do you need business cards, because I know that's the painfully obvious one here, but I said, you need to get my information, right? So I said, I want you to see your business as a subscription model as opposed to a one-off. Because I said, you just earned $50. And I would imagine that you feel like, look, you made a sale and you did good, but you got to reframe it entirely. And by the way, guys, I'm channeling my inner, this is Warren Buffett's words about to come out of my mouth, not mine. Or it might be Charlie Munger, but you need to make a sale to get a customer, not get a customer to make a sale. And we actually covered this in the podcast not too long ago, but what that means is that she sold me the lasagna and made a sale. And like, she thought the $50, like, you know what I mean? Like that was inexperience told her that she did good and she's got $50 and she's like high-fiving her business partner that's there. But really the most important thing she's doing is making that sale to sell me lasagna for the next 12 months. You know what I mean? So you want to see it as a subscription, but she was not seeing that in any way, shape, or form. Now, I want you to think about the chiropractor when we talk about building the $5,000 unit. You know what I mean? What happens to the chiropractor? People go, they get short-term relief, don't come back. right? And again, the chiropractor gets the new customer, gets the exchange, feels like they're doing well, but doesn't track the lifetime value and doesn't see like when are they dropping off, analyzing that data, those analytics, and making some changes. And then I had another one where for my daughter's birthday, we had like a big floaty dealio, right? So just imagine, in like a lake, you got a big floaty and the kids are up on top and they're sliding down and they're doing this kind of thing. Lots of fun. But I had the exact same conversation with the guy that did this. And by the way, he drops them off to the Road Dog. You love this. He does it for the Kardashians. What's Pip Daddy? Who is it? Road Dog, the singer, something Daddy, P Diddy,
Puff Daddy, P Diddy, or Puff Daddy? The same thing.
Okay, two different. I think it's P Diddy. I don't know. Anyways, it was bloody impressive, right? And I told him, I said, next time you get the Kardashians, let me know. And I said, because they're swimming out in the lake, like setting this thing up. I'm like, I'll be in the lake, man, setting this thing up, no problem. You just let me know when the Kardashians are, and I'll be there to fix it up. And he was laughing, I was laughing, and cool guy with long dreads and that sort of stuff. So, bottom line, like just the lasagna gal, it's just such an easy one. But I don't want you to be thinking about the lasagna gal outside the IGA or the supermarket. Be thinking about how you could help your clients do that. You want them to be seeing it as a subscription all day long. And again, they've got to get that first sale to get a customer, not get that customer to make a sale. Huge might sound, I don't know. That's my opinion, guys. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down because I do believe that there's a little bit of magic in that. And Road Dog, maybe one other one that again, literally this morning as I went for a walk, a long one, and it's like, and I wrote this in an email again, not too recently, and it's like anger, like passion. We all know that passion is important. You want to be successful in anything. You want to be passionate, right? Like that's not news to anybody. But anger is a really, really powerful part of passion. So like example, you see at the bottom of every one of my emails where I talk about separations, I talk about the divorces, I talk about the depression, talk about the suicides, that sort of stuff of business owners that don't make it or their partners don't make it. And what happens with the whole, family dynamic, that could be an example. And that's, something like you want to get passionate about something, find something that really pisses you off, right? Whereas why I think that's important, Road Dog, is I think a lot of people are like hiding from their anger and thinking it's a bad thing and not wanting to go there. And I'm going to dare say, you could say frustration possibly, but if you really want to crush it, you really want to make a difference, you want to make a impact on your local community so that you literally change, the average likelihood of success for local business owners. Although, I don't know, anger, I think that's powerful. And again, this morning I was just thinking of some, there's actually a specific individual, by the way, but I was just like, just an arrogant, one of these influencer types and just wants to peacock. And, it's just like, oh man, it's just so, and by the way, it just feels, and I don't know, right? I'm not inside their head, but they're, it's more of, I don't know, let's just assume, to make it black and white and nice and easy, that person is really money hungry and not really interested in full value for their clients, which would be an exaggeration, by the way, of what I was kind of thinking about this morning in this one individual, but it's of the same family of that. And it just pissed me right off, right? And I'm just like, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? To just, to get further faster and just crush it. Anyway, so that's just anger is, like pain is a guarantee, suffering is optional, and just like you're going to go through it, like, suffering, not that by any stretch of the imagination I was suffering this morning, but like, going to that pain, I was like, yo, it's good. You know what I mean? It's like, let's go there instead of like hiding from it and don't worry about it. And, peace, bliss, and blue clouds and blue skies and puffy clouds, just going, you know what, screw that individual. It could be very powerful. And I think that those listening could get some value from that. It's like security, and if like security and certainty is your goal, you're already a failure. You know what I mean? Like security and certainty is like the lowest form of happiness. You don't have to be in that, blissful wonderful, secure, and certain state all the time. A little bit of angst, a little bit of anger, a little bit of yeah. Go towards your anger instead of hide from it. Might be some power for individuals here. And by the way, not just you guys, because I channel through you guys to the business owners, to the chiropractor, the dentist, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. Go to them. What really pisses you off? Ask them that question and then see where they go, and then go a little bit deeper and get them to go a little bit deeper, and then get them to go a little bit deeper by just why, why, why. And could be powerful. So there you go, Shoots. But the lasagna gal story, that might be the one that's, I think that there's a.
I can't believe you totally pulled a Ron Burgundy on her. Like that's
But-
the ultimate. Like, do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal. Like,
I did not say that. I assure you, Shoots. I did
totally
not say
pulled
that.
a Ron Burgundy. Did you tell her about all the leather-bound books that you have too while you were at it, or how did that work out?
May or may not have. May or may not
Listen,
have mentioned those.
I
May
had
or may
no
not have been
idea.
wearing a shirt that says "I am a big deal." Just ask me. Maybe Shoots.
Listen, bud, I had no idea that you just say yes to people selling random crap at your doorstep. I'll be coming over later to sell a $50,000 coaching package at your door. Just so you know.
You never
Holy
know,
smokes.
Do
All
it.
right. Hey, listen, you just talked about anger and stuff, and I actually have a question here in regards to negativity. Obviously, one might say that the last few years there's been just a tad of negativity on around the world. And the question that I got here, it's perfect. So, do you ever get discouraged? And I can tell you, yes, he does. With all the negativity out there, but why don't you answer that? Like, do you? I know you obviously better than most. Well, that's relative, but do you ever get discouraged with all the negativity out there? And I guess the follow up, because there isn't one, but I'd be like, how do you deal with it, man? Like, right, and just sort of get back focused again. But how do you deal with all the negativity?
It's a good question, by the way. I don't know about negativity, but I'd say judgment. I really, you mentioned the last 2 years. Absolutely. Just recently, Prince William, his wife, not him, but I don't know, maybe he took it as like got it a bit too, but his wife was hammered for her 4-year-old's behavior. The 4-year-old sat in a chair and expected to hardly move for an endless amount of time, planes flying and people everywhere and to do. And he's, you know what I mean? And it's like, people are just like, so harsh and just so like, are you just 4 years old? You know what I mean? Like, I've been to a restaurant, had my daughter who, she's 4 and she absolutely lose her bloody mind. And it's, you know what I mean? Like, people are, I don't know. The judgment, crazy. I've said this before, but I think that it's insanely powerful. You're going to be remembered. You're not going to be remembered for what you're doing, not like an email, a podcast that Road Dogg and I do, or an interview or a blog post, or that's me, right? But you're going to be remembered for what you refuse to give up on. It's like, mentioned negative, like I get, I do a daily email, and like just literally this morning, I had a bit of a laugh at, Tori, who looks after my emails, and she's like, oh, geez, what to look at this one, right? Like, this is a beauty once in a while, a beauty. And it's like, you get these negative comments from people telling me what I should and should not comment on, and how I should and shouldn't speak, and what I should and should not do, etc. And the reality, like I've shown you, over about 600 plus emails, I'm just going to continue to do me, right, wrong, and different. I'm going to try and be funny. I'm going to try poke fun at some, events. And I know in this crazy world that we have, I've been told many, many a times, be careful, be careful. And it's just like, I don't know, just, what, I'm going to keep just cruising along. But what's important is that, you keep doing something that you're supposed to be doing. Like for me, it's improving in a meaningful way the business coaching profession, right? Like, so I'm not going to be remembered for what I'm doing. I'm certainly not going to be remembered for, email, podcasts, whatever. I'm going to be remembered for that, what I refuse to give up on, right? The problem I see, some of the business coaches, like, they just give up so bloody easily, like that, that negativity, and, the Prince William thing, like, you can imagine how distressing that could be. But coaches, they give up on social media, they give up on marketing, they give up on personal branding, they give up on advertising. They give up on their prospects. They give up on their clients. They give up during the sales process. Like the person's body language doesn't, they don't seem too engaged, and all of a sudden they just pull the chute mid call or mid appointment. Give up on live events. We see that all the time. Maybe it's the accountant or the joint venture partner. They're giving up on that. Everybody tells them, look, you need a funnel, you need a funnel, you need a funnel. They build one funnel. It doesn't work perfectly day one. What do? Oh, funnels. And then somebody tells them, oh, yeah, funnels don't work. And they bail on that. And by the way, do it with their clients and then change direction. Or maybe even building a list, follow up. And by the way, your dreams, right? Like again, the reality is somebody wants to be every single day. I will meet someone who wanted to become a business coach, dreamt of becoming a business coach, dreamt of really killing it. And then they just, their wife's on them, their husband's on them, whoever's on them, they're on themselves, don't get success straight away. And again, they treat it as an experiment, right? It's like a 90-day, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day experiment as to whether or not they're going to keep going or whether, the program works, this work, or it's for them. And it's just, you got to go all in. You need to be all. If the secret, I actually created a video here a number of days ago, and it was like, if the secret, which there isn't one, it would be to go all in. You got to go all in. Again, what you're going to be remembered for what you refuse to give up on. Are you going to refuse to give up on being, a six-figure, multiple six-figure, a seven-figure coach locally, being an influence locally for business owners? So that's what I'd say, Road Dog. It's again, and you and I, well, yeah, just Road Dog. That's what I'm going to leave it on. You're going to be remembered for what you refuse to give up on, and therefore negativity and whatnot, you just run over the top of it. So, I don't want to, try and become the practical psychologist here because that I am not. But I do know coaching and done it pretty damn successfully for a couple of decades. And I can just tell you that success in business is just, it's Jedi mind tricks on steroids, right? Like I say, you ever been to McDonald's and you say yes? You ever heard the phrase, do you want fries with that? And you say yes. And then you're a lawyer. And then I say, hey, well, why don't you do you want a will with that? And then obviously that's an absolute 101 that will work for any lawyer in any city in any state in any country in the world, right? You ever met anybody do you know anybody, or you probably had this in your own family, where somebody died and then they didn't have a will in place? It's a total dog's breakfast. And by the way, it can create generational rifts, right? Like you got the house, or you got the two houses, or you got whatever to break up, and it creates like these generational rifts, right? So believe me, do you want a will with that by helping the family get a will in place? It's not like, yeah, you're going to make some dough as the lawyer, but believe me, what you're going to deliver in value is going to trump that times a lot, but they won't do it. So how do you get the lawyer to say, do you want a will with that? It's a Jedi mind trick, and then they try it, and then they try it 5 times, and then the majority and the people say no. And one guy seems a little bit annoyed, or the gal seems a little bit annoyed, and they're like, I'm not doing that anymore, right? Seems like a, bit of a sales tactic or whatever. It's crazy. It can't be seen that way, right? Like it's a delivery of value on steroids. So anyways, Road Dog, yeah, got to be cautious with that, with the negativity, and the world is a pretty crazy place right now. And so I'm just going to agree, Road Dog. I think, that negativity is something you got to keep your eye on, but you got to keep pounding, and you're going to be remembered for what you refuse to give up on. But I do understand how it can be a little bit challenging for a new coach, or actually even established coach, right?
In the words of the late, great Gord Downey, no one's interested in something you didn't do.
Nice. That's the singer, the Tragically Hip, ladies and gentlemen. You probably never heard of the Tragically Hip. Great band. Great.
One of my favorite quotes of all time. Like it's just it's so powerful because it's just so darn true, right? But anywho, now we're talking negativity. Obviously, the markets, the economy, inflation, like boom, there's so much happening right now in the world. There's a ton of negativity out there. But a lot of the negativity right now is actually based on just the data, right? The economic data. So with everything that you're seeing, and I'm just because somebody wrote in and said, hey, do you see buying behavior changing? I'd be curious to get your thoughts because I've got thoughts on that big time myself in terms of how to position yourself and everything else. But what do you say? Like, would you see buying behavior changing, especially with everything that's going on right now?
Yes, 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 and yes. And again, a recession. Everybody knows that the bubble's got to pop at some stage. Um, and also, but like note that these people like they're that negativity stuff that we mentioned earlier, right? Like if you go to your Facebook page right now, you're going to see somebody moaning about gas prices, right? And I understand it, right? Like it's painful, but if you look at a price of like a price of a bottle of water, right, that you could get for free in the local creek with flowing water, right? Don't drink water that's not flowing, by the way, a little like yellow snow. But anyway, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just that would be something maybe, and it's about a lot, I don't know what percentage, but a whole lot more expensive. Um, I remember doing some research on consumer pricing behavior during COVID. And as a frame, I think seeing the entire playing field is critically important. And I remember saying, but I've said for a long time, the ultimate competitive advantage is seeing that entire playing field, right? So with that said, um, from that vantage point, and keep in mind this would be adjusted slightly depending upon where you live, right? But if you're in Montana, things are very different than if you're in LA, and if you're in LA, things are different than you're in Texas. And at different times during the pandemic, again, those different areas, like think of Florida, right? Like again, there was a period when they were in lockdown and all worried, and all of a sudden they just opened up and didn't, basically it was just like Florida. You'd never even know there was COVID if you were in Florida, right? So as a frame, again, just kind of seeing that entire playing field could be powerful. I remember like 100 million people in the states in about 90 days totally adjusted their buying values. And again, if you understand like advertising and whatnot, that's just totally mind blowing for something like that and that black and white to change over 90 days. Pretty wild. The least converting messages for online engagement were around the most popular previously, right? Like achievement, entertainment, influence. Basically, they went from the highest converting words to basically the lowest, right? And then the most engagement was around. I think it was like trust, safety, security. Again, there'll be some more words in there, and maybe not one of them, but basically around safety, security, and trust. Right. And then there was a huge number of people, like over 75%, that were more worried about finances than they were their health. Right. When, by the way, it's a pandemic, right? That in a black and white world, that's pretty wild. Remember, there was also a survey came out, and it was like, I don't know, it's like over 25%, call it 30%, believed that, um, you know, things weren't going to go back to normal for like a number of years, right? And again, this was not long after 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right? And it was like, do you really think so? And all the experts, of course, are saying this isn't going to be a 2 week thing. But again, we don't listen to the experts. We look at your local news site and the headline and believe that. And I'll let you decide whether or not they're trying to point you in the right direction. And it was like, events like, sports and church and movie theaters and entertainment. They were always going to be the last to normalize. And guess what? They were the last ones to normalize. And I think you're going to find like movie theaters, the movie Top Gun just came out probably all over your Facebook feed for the last period of time. But prior to that, tell me the last time you were at a movie theater or anybody was at a movie theater or you saw anybody highlighting a movie on something like your Facebook feed, Instagram, etc. Right? Just hadn't been done. Like the world is a changing, like big time. And so just bottom line is that, some research there dictated that things were, well, actually, you know what? Also, the research clearly stated that people pretended that they didn't care about the vaccine, but then they, definitely were anxiously waiting for it. And only this, and that's whether they took it or not, was going to allow us to get back to normal, right? Like I remember talking to an influencer And he had told me, and he was, if you read his Facebook feed, anti this, anti that, no vax, no this, no that. And the guy was vaccinated and then asked me not to tell anybody that he was vaccinated, right? He's like, oh, I don't really want to put that out there or whatever. Because we were talking about traveling somewhere, right? And I'm like, hey, well, that's not going to work, right? Because you're not vaxxed, man. So we're going to have to change this plan. And he's like, oh, no, I'm good. I got vaccinated, then realized, then he's like, hey, hang on, but don't say that, right? And I'm like, really? But anywho, a little bit wild, but oh, good. So yeah, do I buying behavior changing? Absolutely. Things like supporting local are always going to became more important post pandemic, and that's not going to change at any stage. Um, And I would just say that make sure, in your sales messages and your marketing messages that, again, this is the kind of stuff that we're putting out there. Like, like Bitcoin and NFT experts, they suddenly disappear, right? And by the way, Road Dog, you and I talked about this early before we started the pre-show, but like Bitcoin, like, well, if you believe in crypto in any way, shape, or form, now's the time. You should be excited, right? But the problem is everybody was excited when it was at 60,000. And now that it's, 20,000, nobody's excited about it. So if you believe in it if you believed in it at 60,000, you should be like absolute raving fan at 20,000. And here's your opportunity. Remember the Rockefellers and whatnot. It happened during tough times, not great times. The real money is made when things go sideways. So a lot of the guys with money on the sidelines and stronger business people are actually quietly a little bit excited about everything going a little bit pear-shaped because they're sitting on cash and they're going to start buying up things that are going to be dramatically underpriced, like on sale times a million. Um, so yeah, Road Dog, bottom line, buying behavior changing. And I think you got to stay on top of this with your clients, right? And their scripts and their marketing and their advertising. And if they haven't changed it up, like I said, during the pandemic, it was about security and whatnot and trust. And if you didn't change that up, you could have been seen as a bit of a money hungry type of operator in the local community, and that's obviously not a good thing. So that's my answer, Shoots. What do you think?
Yeah, and I'm just going to add to that, and that is just make sure that your marketing messages reflect where we're at in the market cycle. Not that you're still posting, but how groovy things are and everything else. And then one thing, especially if you have a high ticket offer, do you have payment plans? Like, do you have other options? Do you have other ways of billing people and everything? Like, just these little things, right? Make it easy. That's where I get frustrated. It's like, well, I've got a $20,000 offer and I only do one pay. Well, that's probably not going to fly. Like,
Yeah.
people's buying behaviors are changing, and that's just the reality of where we're at. And Hell, Carl, your business was founded on a tough economic cycle as well, right? The market had just crashed. The real estate market had crashed. This is Look at this as an opportunity and get excited. The amount of real estate agents, the amount of business coaches, the amount of everything is about to get a lot less, right? The herd is being thinned out. And this is your opportunity to come out at the end of this as the expert. So that's my little pep talk for you. Listen, I know we're over time, and I'm just really disappointed because the next question is how do you find what you're looking for? I didn't even know that Bono was a fan of the podcast. Apparently, he still hasn't found what he's looking for, so he's written into the show. So this is huge, and I was hoping. So Bono's going to have to wait one more week. So my apologies to the U2 frontman Bono for not answering his question this week, but Shoots, that's how it works, bud. This is how big of a deal you are. Like, not even kidding. You should grow a mustache.
Maybe I have, Shoots. Come see me.
All right. On that note, and that is frightening. I know your wife would never allow such behavior to happen of you growing a stash. Listen, close us out. What's one thing that they can take from today's episode and implement into their coaching practice?
The one thing, I think that something about getting discouraged and all the negativity, like again, what's the end? It's not about getting discouraged. Who cares, right? Like if you turn that into fuel, you're going to be laughing. But it's the coach that takes that negativity and then gives up on the social media, gives up on the, building their list, gives up on the live events, gives up on their prospect, partway through the sales process because doesn't see the level of interest that they felt like they should be showing, and understanding that different people show interest in very different ways. And I can assure you that the person that seems very disinterested during the sales process could be, absolutely the person that's going to whip out their credit card. And the person that's the most enthusiastic is often the one that just, going to waste your bloody time. So that's just, that negativity. And like I said, judgment for me, it's not about the negativity, but I see judgment on steroids. So keep your head up. And the solution, Road Dog, to all of it is just pound, 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 pound. Or maybe that's a little bit too abstract. Help 5 business owners every day. Help 5 business owners every day. Help 5 business owners every day. And I assure you, you're not going to be short on clients. So there you go, Shoots. That's my
Love it.
thought.
Love it. And you know what? Just start with one, right? Help one, and guess what'll happen? You're going to feel good. They're going to feel good. You're going to want to help another, right? It's here we go. You ready? Are you ready for it all to tie back in? It's like taking off against the wind. You just gotta get that first bit of lift off, and off you go. Wow. I want to punch myself in the face just for saying that right now. But there you go. All right. My God, what happened there? Anyways, on that note, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, the king himself, King Karl. If you're not on the inside getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or you just want more information on the profit acceleration software, or how to build your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone that you think might make a great coach. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate if you'd rate the episode if you like what you heard. And that is it for another week. We will catch you in the next episode. And remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.